We have to learn to let go and allow life to happen through us without any judgments, without any preconceived notions, just allowing life to be what it is.
We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We're finding who we are.
There's only one reform in life. When you and I stop living from our heads, you and I are here for one very solid reason, and that is to learn to be loving.
We're finding our way together, just you and me.
Namaste. Welcome to Aspire. We're going to talk about moving in, or is it moving out? Or moving out and moving in. No matter what, we're moving. Don't you move. Stay with us. Ready? I'm not ready. Are you ready, Greg? Yes, I'm ready. Are you? No? Are you? Ah! I don't know who I am! Okay, I'm ready. Ow! I feel good. Na, 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 na. What are you doing on Sunday mornings? If Socrates had said that, he would have been a really smart guy. Blasphemer! Would you believe this is a religious program? It's not. Around, around, around we go, and all of our beliefs tell us so. Gotcha. What do you think of Aspire? Let things roll, let things happen, let the gods come down and do your thing. Come on, like that. Ooh, baby. Sock it to me, gotcha, 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 gotcha. That was good. Gotcha. Hi. Have you ever noticed how much moving around we do, jockeying around for position to try to be happy with our life? Move here, move there, do this, do that. We do everything that we possibly can to kind of get more in our life. In fact, I was thinking about it the other day. Our whole premise in life is more, 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 more. We want everything. So we do a lot of jockeying around and moving around, trying to get things into our life, trying to get certain things out of our life, trying to have certain things. And you know, one of the interesting things about the move-out situation that we have, where we are looking outside of ourselves for everything that we want, is that we never find out what's really going on and what's really valuable. I'm not a terribly religious person. I don't believe in religion. Religion is a controlling issue to me. Religion tells people what to do, how to act, what to be. But I really like what Jesus said, because I don't feel he was a religious man. I feel he was very spiritual. He said, the treasure that you seek lives within you, and he told us to seek the treasure within that perishes not. It's a very wise statement. But the way we live our life is as though there is a treasure somehow outside of us that is greater than the one that we are within. And so we go on in this weird kind of dance our whole life trying to find something better than ourselves. And we think it's outside of us. We buy new cars, we try to have more money. There's always this thing for position where we're trying to better ourselves. Americans are obsessed with trying to better themselves. Better themselves, better themselves. What does that mean? I've tried to look at that from many points of view. I can't figure out what it means to better myself. Does that mean that I'm a better person because now I have a different kind of car, an expensive car? Or that I live in a different kind of neighborhood that is better than the neighborhood that I used to be in? Does that mean that I have more money? And does that mean I look better? That's another thing. We're obsessed with how we look. Estee Lauder has made millions of dollars off the whole idea that we don't look good enough just being who we are. I always have this weird thing, you know, that you marry this woman, you know, and you wake up the next morning with her makeup off, and you don't recognize who's laying next to you. You go, I married the wrong person. Who are you? And you find out it was her without her Estee Lauder makeup on. I don't know. It's just a sick joke I think about. But it's kind of weird to think that that's the way we live our life. always trying to cover up what we are, bettering ourselves, thinking that that's bettering ourselves when we're really not. Consider all of the moves you and I have made to try to better ourselves in a way that is kind of silly. For instance, do you remember the time that you thought you had to have a certain kind of tennis shoe when you were a kid, and if you didn't have it, all of a sudden you weren't in with the in group? Or as you got older, you wanted to better yourself by making more money or having a more positive attitude about your life, and you say, "Hey, Penn, what's wrong with that?" Well, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, but what makes you think you're not okay just being who you really are? And if you are going through difficult times right now in your life, does that mean that there's something wrong with you? And everybody's afraid that something is wrong with them. It's like if we have a problem in our life that we've got some appendage hanging out of our head, hanging there, we try to hide it. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got problems. Jesus had problems. His disciples. He often got very exasperated with them. I think it's normal to have these kind of human situations. My point with you is what we normally do with our whole life is our attention is always to move out, never to move in. We look outside of ourselves for the things that we want, thinking that I can better myself if I move outside of myself and get a new car, a new home, and I have dreams outside of me, these grandioso dreams outside of me. It's funny, it never really works, does it? Reminds me of a story. You want to hear a story? This is a true story about a friend of mine. His name was Mort. Mort was Jewish. I'm half Jewish, so I can tell these stories. Mort died at 40 years old. He became a millionaire because he owned a junkyard in Kansas City. But Mort was, well, he wasn't a liberal person. He didn't give. He hardly loved. His whole life was just revolving around a junkyard and all the money he could make. Well, Mort died of a heart attack at 40 years old, and the rabbi got up, and I love this rabbi. He was awesome at the funeral. He said, "Mort reminds me of the man who went to the czar and asked the czar for all the land he could walk in a day." And the czar said, "You can have all the land that you can walk in a day." And at the end of the day, the man dropped dead of a heart attack. And the czar said, that's what he got, 6 feet, and that's all Mort got. Was 6 feet. And that's the way we are. When we want to get more and more and more and more, we miss the point of our life. All we really get to better our life, if we look outside of ourselves, is 6 feet. Because when you die, you can't take any of this with you. And yet we continue to believe somehow within ourselves that if we get more things, more objects in our life, we upgrade our home, we upgrade our car, upgrade our children, that we're going to be happier people. And we're not going to be happier people. We'll be the same person with more stuff. I love watching people move. They always got, their garage is always filled with stuff as though it's precious. And they load it up and they wrap it up with paper and stuff and put it in boxes as though if anything breaks, their whole life will crumble. There's a couple moving over here. Let's go over and take a look. We'll peek inside and see what they're up to. Come on. Oh, it's standing bull. I thought it was sitting bull.
You're standing bull.
Oh,
this is sitting bull.
Ah!
Just believe we can be everything.
We're in. The beauty of television is that we can do things that we shouldn't be doing and get away with it because all of you are watching, and it's the magic that we have here. Well, let's see what we got. Well, look at this. A bunch of work. I don't envy the task that they have here. Look at all this stuff that we accumulate in a lifetime. Have you ever thought about all the stuff that we accumulate as individuals in a lifetime? And have you ever considered that there is a subliminal game going on with all the stuff that we get? That is, all of these possessions represent to us the culmination of our life. How successful we are, how happy we are, how beautiful we are. All of this stuff represents that to us. And so what we do is we take all of these possessions that we think are so very important and we gingerly pack them away in some box, thinking that these possessions are going to make some sort of difference in our life. And half of this stuff, and I cleaned up my language there a little bit for you, half of this stuff, these people probably don't even know they have and could live without. Have you ever looked at your stuff and asked yourself, what am I keeping this for? Because I think I'll need it someday? There's a psychological thing to that that's kind of warped if you begin to think about it. You know, I have this thing about, it's a little metaphor, and it's just a Gregism. You don't have to accept it, but it's like, you know, when you're driving down the street in your neighborhood and you look around in people's garages, I have this thing, it's like a metaphor. If I look into a person's garage, that's how they think. Now, some people have a lot of clutter in their garage, and I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not making a judgment, but you know, it's kind of a metaphor. I wonder if that's what they think, if that's how they think. And half the stuff that's in there, they don't even know they have. I remember when a friend of mine, his mother died, and we went into their house, the mother's house, to kind of get things sorted out. This happened in my own life, even with my own mother and father when they died. And you have to go in and you have to kind of clean things out. You find stuff in there that has absolutely nothing at all to do with anything that's practical or reasonable. And you ask yourself, why did they keep this? I went in my own garage and cleaned it out and found out, why am I keeping this? Because I think, like many people do unconsciously, that what I have is very important. What I have outside of me is more important than what's really going on within me. If I was as meticulous about my inside as I am my outside, I'd be enlightened. And maybe that has a lot to do with our work in our life. There's nothing outside, there's nothing here that these two people have that is the treasure of their life. There is nothing on the outside that is the treasure of our life. The thing that is the deepest treasure is the thing that we really do not understand that we own. It is who we are and what we are. And if we look within, if we move in rather than move out with our attention, we begin to find that significance to our life. The significance of me and you is not found in the possessions we have and the junk that we keep. It's in our perseverance to steadily move in within us. Look at all this stuff. I wonder if these two people really know what they're getting into and if any of this is worth anything. Reminds me of a story. An Aspire tape. Good taste. Reminds me of a story. It's a story about God. He got tired after making the earth. So he was trying to find a place, you know, where he could go to rest, where mankind and humankind wouldn't bother him, because he kept getting all these prayers and he had to answer all the prayers. And so he asked his angels as a council where he should go, and they say, well, maybe you should go to the Himalayas. Man will never find you there. And he says, basically, eventually, man's going to find you there, because someday some guy's going to go up there and climb that mountain. So another angel pipes up and says, well, maybe you ought to go to maybe you ought to go to outer space. They'll never find you there. God says, nah, eventually they'll find me there. So one angel whispers in his ear, I know a place where mankind will never find you. Never think of looking for you. And God says, where's that? And he said, in the heart of man. God says, you got it. You see, we move out. We always think our good is outside of us. We think it's in things like books and tapes and objects and things. Heck, half the stuff that this poor guy is packing away, he'll forget that he even has by the time he gets it to his destination. Honestly, if we look within ourselves, we'll find that we have more stuff than the stuff that we're packing up here. It's not important what you own. What's important is, do you have presence within yourself? And do you find something within yourself that is important to you? If we would spend just a little time within ourselves, watching, seeing, spending some time in the heart of our being, we would find that within us there is a treasure that no time can corrupt, that no person can change, that nothing can hurt. We would find God within our heart. That's where God is. It is felt. It is not thought. It is something within us, not something on the without of us. Religion concentrates too much outside of us. We need to go back in and persevere within. And it is within that makes things happen, because life is lived from the inside out, not from the outside in. That's an I gotcha. I'm going to go in the other room. I got to see what's going on in there. We're going to break for just a moment, and then we're going to come back, and I'll meet you on the other side and give you some how-to. So please don't go away, because I'm moving that away. Why can't I say what I want? It's my program. Why can't I? I say what you want what I say. I say what you want. I'm confused. Should we go on?
Let's do it.
Let's move. I'm wiping camera.
Just believe we can be everything. Fine.
Hi. Went upstairs, looked in all around the bedrooms and such. Really a nice house. I hope they're getting a better house, right? Well, anyway, let me give you some how-tos about moving in rather than moving out. Something's trying to happen to us that we're constantly, I gotta get out of the way so you can come downstairs, huh? There's something trying to happen to us that we are constantly pushing away. And that is, there is an urge in every single one of us to move within ourselves rather than to move outside of ourselves. We spend a great deal of time ignoring that. And because we ignore the move in, we live too much on the outside. Let me offer to you a little challenge. Something maybe to work on inside of yourself this week. Move within yourself. Don't move outside of yourself. Follow the urge that's trying to say to you, let's go in. Let's not go outside. Begin to understand that life is an inside job. It's an inside job trying to work outside. Begin to honor and respect how life works. It has nothing to do with head. It has a lot to do with heart. If I live from my heart, I'm going to find that life takes on some significance. I'll begin to have new eyes, new ears. I won't look at life like I used to. But it requires me following the urge. Now, meditation, of course, becomes very important. And everyone asks about meditation. How do I meditate? When should I meditate? Where should I meditate? Meditation is really a very simple process, and it boggles the mind. There are so many different forms of meditation. With mantras, there's a form of meditation of just watching your breathing. To me, living a simple life is one of the most unique ways of following the inner life. Just watching your breathing. Inhale, exhale, and watching the spaces between the breath and being aware of those spaces. It can bring us tremendous insight, clarity of mind, and a depth in our heart. I'm thirsty. Hold on, don't go away. The trouble with so many of us is we don't follow the urge of ourselves, therefore we find it difficult to go within ourselves. Meditation allows us to do that. Meditation isn't a, let me put this here. Meditation isn't a difficult process, it's a simple process. It's the process of simply being me and following the urge to go within myself, not to go outside of myself. And if I go outside of myself, I'll start thinking that all the things that I own and all the things I possess and all the things I can get are more important than who I am. This needs a little cream. Strong coffee. No wonder they're working so hard. I wonder if they have any cream around here. The second step is to follow your feelings. Feelings have a lot to do with Feelings have a lot to do with how we go within ourselves, how we live our life. You know, the most valuable thing that ever happened to me was the first feeling I ever discovered. It was the realization that I never had feelings before. And when I had a real feeling, a feeling that deeply moved me, I can't tell you what that meant to me. Following a person's feelings is the most courageous thing that we can do with our life. Do you realize how few of us follow our feelings? We don't really follow them. We don't even acknowledge them. The majority of our life is spent denying that we even have feelings and refusing to move with them. And because we do that, we don't tend to have the insight that's necessary to bring us to understand the value of what's really important. And that's what this message is really all about moving in rather than moving out. The value of you is not in boxes. It's not in the things that you own. It's not in your home. It's not looking at your life and then having some portfolio and saying this is what you're worth, this is what you achieved in your life. Remember the story of Mort. Mort at the end walked all he could in his junkyard and sold all he could in his junkyard, but all he ever really got was 6 feet. Don't you be like Mort. I know the American ways to be like Mort, to accumulate and to have. But let me tell you, the deepest and most beautiful thing that you have is what you feel. And if you go with what you feel, you'll never want for what you think you should have or what you should get. And again, one last very important point. follow what you feel. No matter where it takes you, follow it. It may take you in some interesting areas in your life, and it will take tremendous courage to follow those areas and to stay with it. Sometimes it will say, let go of this, let go of that, and it seems very frightening. But that's what life is all about. It's following and having the courage to follow those things which our mind and our logic would say are silly. We see the bumper stickers everywhere. He who at the end has the most toys wins. I'm afraid that's the most unfeeling thing that we could live for. And I'm afraid that's what most of us have been conned into believing. Let me say this to you, reiterate. He who wins lets go of everything and has everything, all things. Because everything that you and I are seeking lives within us. It ain't what you got, it's what's within you. Gotcha. Thanks for being with us on this edition of Aspire. Hope to see you next week. We're going to be right back, so don't go away.
Are we ready? Are you ready?
Go ahead, make my day.
How's that? Is that good?
I'm grateful you chose once again to be with us on Aspire. And if this is your first time in viewing us, it might be a shock. You're wondering what we're doing. This series, I Gotcha, was born out of the Lighten Up series that we recently did that everybody seemed to really enjoy. This is kind of the son of Lighten Up. I can't really explain what it is that we're doing. We want to offer to you an alternative to that grim kind of attitude that many people have about religion and life, that it should be something that we struggle through, that we can't smile, that we can't enjoy it, that there isn't any fun to it. There are serious times and there are painful times. But we can always have fun through all times if we know who we are and where we are within ourselves. So maybe this program, I Gotcha, Lighten Up, and Aspire, and all the things that we've tried to do on this TV program are there just strictly to put a smile on your face and to remind you of something that's trying to happen within us all. That there's a big smile that's trying to happen, maybe warmth and happiness and the return of all the things that are really important to us that children know all about that we as big adults forget. And we're looking forward to continuing in our series, and that's what we're going to do next week on I Gotcha, with something that, well, I can't say on TV, so be sure to tune in next week. Namaste.